أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. قل تعالوا أتل ما حرم ربكم عليكم ألا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا ولا تقتلوا أولادكم من إملاق نحن نرزقكم وإياهم ولا تقربوا الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تعقلون. Translation of this ayat is from the 6th chapter of the Holy Quran, verses 152. Say, come, I will rehearse to you what your Lord has forbidden, that you associate not anything as partners with him, and that you do good to parents, and that you kill not your children for fear of poverty. It is we who it is we who provide for you and for them, and that you approach not foul deeds, whether open or secret, and that you kill not the life which Allah has made sacred, save by right. That is what He has enjoined upon you, that you may understand. In today's sermon, I would like to continue on, or today's dars, I would like to continue from where I left off yesterday. That is that I spoke about the rights and responsibilities between husband and wife, and then today I would like to continue that on the rights and responsibilities towards the children, the training, and also the children's responsibility towards their parents. Um, in this verse from the Holy Quran, it becomes very um, apparent that we should not fear poverty and then take the life of our own children. Now, this is taken in its literal sense at the time that it was revealed, and it could apply even today, that there are some circumstances of poverty where people may take their children literally through abortion. But one of the explanations of this verse, which our Khalifa of the Jamaat has given us explanation, is that it also means that out of fear of poverty, that we do not educate them spiritually. We just put them into training in such a secular training, in such an environment where they're just put to work, where their souls are killed. And that is also the meaning of this verse, and that is why I mentioned it here today. Also, the verse speaks about doing good to your parents, and this is these two things are side by side with associating partners with Allah. So we should always look at this, very important, that the unity of God, and then the treatment of our parents, and then how we take care of our children. Continuing on that subject, I would like to just make a brief explanation, which I didn't do yesterday in my Dars al Quran, where I mentioned that there were some steps which we could follow to stay away from aggression, away from anger. And I mentioned that when we have the satanic insight, or the satanic thoughts that come to us, that we should protect ourselves, and we should say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Then I mentioned that in philosophy of the teaching of Islam, the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam has explained that there are ways to control our emotions and our passions. And he mentioned about diet. He mentioned also about fasting. And today I want to just mention here some points about dieting as related to that subject of passion. That is that we can find that the regulation of diet timings and what we eat are the basis for establishing good morals, and also along with good health. For more unhealthy and more unbalanced diets we eat, the more it plays havoc with our sound mind and body. Hazur Aidul Talib bin Aziz has mentioned this recently about the importance of a wholesome diet and wholesome eating to keep ourselves healthy, especially in this time of the pandemic. And he mentioned about preservatives, and he gave example of chips. Now, that was in this time, and he has mentioned time to time before about the importance of eating good. And this in particular, he has mentioned to children as well, that when you raise them, when you give them food also, that you should give them healthy food. And this is something which is very important, because it relates to the upbringing. It relates also that it can happen that the food that we eat, it can give us certain indigestion, certain issues, and certain problems that can cause the brain to get frustrated, and can also cause aggression, agitation. So that's why it's very important that we shouldn't eat food which gives us a problem of digestion, and gives us agitation, and so on and so forth. Once I learned from a scholar that he had mentioned that because of the food nowadays, the lack of true quality of food, that it's not wholesome, it's not organic anymore. He said because of the lack of the substance in food, it leaves people unsatisfied. And according to him, according to this scholar's assessment, it made them in such a condition that they crave for unhealthy things. And because of this unsatisfaction, they crave things. And it was in his research, or his estimation, that it can bring a person toward urges like drugs. Now, of course, there are many things which can be a factor for a person to have that kind of unsatisfaction, that they can go towards drugs and these things. But there is definitely a truth to the matter that nowadays there is a lot of unhealthy things within the food that we are eating, which do not help us to calm ourselves, and to give us balance, and to give us good health. Nowadays there's a lot of focus on when we look on the worldliness, the focus on how people look, the focus on how we're losing weight, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're getting strong, we're getting muscles, all these kind of focus on the outer appearance, which is something which is going on, which can be also to the detriment of actually someone's health, where you can see people are taking steroids. They're doing so many false things with their outer appearance. But what we should be looking at, and we should be focusing on, and this is also Islamic, is to take care of good and wholesome food that is tayyib, food that is clean. And this is something which is good for your body. This is good for your morals. It's good for your mind. It's good also for ultimately for your spirituality. And so I wanted to just make a mention about this briefly in the beginning, although it took maybe longer than I had thought, but I just wanted to mention it here about its importance in relation to yesterday's topic of controlling one's anger and one's mood. Now, going back to the topic of our responsibility towards the training of those in our household, I would like to read some excerpts from the writing of our beloved Imam Hazrat Khalifatul Masih al-Khamis Sayyidul Talib Nasr Aziz, when he said in his Friday sermon, 2017, May 19th, this continuation from yesterday. Thus, if you wish to have a peaceful home, if you wish to bring up the future generations and keep them attached to religion, then men need to be attentive towards their conditions. Thus, this is the standard. All your efforts of preaching and gaining the religious knowledge are futile if you are not good with your family. When men do not take their responsibility seriously, homes are shattered and the lives of children are devastated. Also in an address, our beloved Hazur has also mentioned that the crime that we find in society can be linked to the fact that children, they come from broken homes. They come from homes where parents do not have unity, and they fight, or they could be broken in divorce, and so on and so forth. And this is the outcome of such devastated and broken homes. And he goes on to say in his sermon that men must not force parda on women, and women should bear in mind that they need to cover their head and body according to the requirements of modesty. This is the command of Allah, the Almighty, and so they should be mindful of this. The promised Messiah, ﷺ, explaining this, says, the relationship between a husband and wife should be like two true and sincere friends. If his relationship with his wife is not good, how can he be at peace with God? The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said, the best among you is he who is best towards his wife. Further, husbands need to understand their responsibilities as fathers. Fathers should also play their role in the child's training and upbringing. In particular, when boys reach 7 or 8 years old, they become needful of their father's attention. Men and fathers must establish their good examples. Where fathers should show respect and regard to their children, they develop good morals. A father's good relationship with his children gives them a sense of protection. Thus, to instill in children a sense of security, it is imperative that fathers spend some time in leisure activities with their children and pray for them. So nowadays, because of the situation that we're in, there are many families who are at home, and their children are also at home, and this gives a very good opportunity for establishment of a deeper relationship with your children, and also children too. This is a very good time for the youth, that they should try to have a closer relationship with their parents. And this is a very unique time in history also. And we should think about it seriously, that would we let this time pass where we lost that opportunity, and we continued the same things, and we continue to just be stuck on our own activities, on our devices, and stayed away from each other, and we didn't try to do things with each other. So we should try to think of ways to sit together, to discuss things together, and to spend time together, having fun together, and loving connections, so that we can build that bond even more better and stronger. Then Hazur said that the promised Messiah alayhi salam says that I pray for my children and require them to follow a broad set of rules of behavior. And he said that those rules of behavior, such as our teachings, what are the rules, what are its regulations, and draw attention towards them, and no more. Beyond this, I put my full trust in Allah Almighty, in the confidence that the seed of good fortune inherent in each of them will flower at its proper time. So the promised Messiah said two things that he does for training: that he prays for his children and puts his trust in Allah, that Allah will make sure that their inner good qualities will blossom and come out at a later stage. And secondly, what he does is he guides them. He explains them, the rules and the wisdom behind them. And this is very important. This is very, very important, and especially that we have now an attention towards learning, reading, and doing things like that nowadays more than ever because of the extra time. This is a good time to try to clarify and explain to your children certain things that they need to know about their future, that they need to know about some of the pitfalls in life and where they can be saved from those pitfalls. This is your responsibility. And then he says that promised Messiah further states, behave in a manner that is an excellent example for children, and for this it is essential that one should reform oneself. So that is very essential, that and we know this, we understand this, that we have to be an example for our children, not just that we should give lectures, but we should be ourselves an example, and we should try our best to beg of Allah so that Allah may help to reform us and become best model for our children in our generation. Now we find in one of the hadith, there are several hadiths about the training of children, and this is the one that I mentioned, that's shown here on the screen, that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, respect your children and cultivate in them the best of manners. So under the explanation of this given by Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmed, may Allah be pleased with him, he explained this hadith, and he said that Islam has defined the rights of parents over children and vice versa. On the other hand, it emphasizes service and respectful behavior to parents, and on the other commands parents to treat their children with due understanding and regard, and to handle them in such a way as engenders in them feelings of dignity and self-respect, and to attend to their education and training in particular, so that when they grow up, they may observe with due propriety their duties to God and to His servants, and become pioneers of national progress. So he's explaining here that the responsibility of training, of educating, giving that proper moral and social training and education to the children, that they then become the means of national progress. So all the progress of a society depends upon how each home is progressing. And then further on, he explains also that The other portion of this hadith, the one relating to the respect to children, is of all the religious codes that distinctive feature of Islam. For no other religion of the world has appreciated the point that without showing a proper measure of respect to children, high moral qualities could not be cultivated among them. So it's, first and foremost in Islam that we are taught to show respect towards children. This is the way in which we can get them to, to follow the teachings, to respect, even to respect you. And as I'll explain later on about responsibility that youth have, this is the means for which there is, we see in society today where there's a generation gap. And there's a big generation gap. And many, elderly, we can see clearly because many elderly are living apart from their children in old age homes, and none of family members want to take care. There's a huge, generational gap, and this shouldn't be there. And this is how it's established, is through respect from one side, the elders, the parents towards their children, and then on the other hand, respect of the youth, the children towards their elders. This is also mentioned in hadith. So he says that some foolish parents, in spite of loving their children, treat them evidently in such a low and vulgar manner, frequently indulging in abusive language, that their feelings of dignity, self-respect, and self-estimation slowly freeze to death. So the death of that dignity of that person is sucked out when, even though they show that they love their children, but they talk to them, they behave with them, they say things to them which destroy inside their self-respect. And this is the killing which I spoke about earlier that the Holy Quran talks about. We shouldn't kill our children in this way as well. This injunction of our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is worthy of being written in gold letters. He says it enjoins that children should be treated with consideration, so as to equip them with dignity, self-respect, and high moral qualities. Then I would like to, before some examples of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we just read some other hadith of guidance for training, where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Treat your children equitably in the matter of gifts, as you would wish them to deal equitably with you in beneficence and affection." So, in this hadith, it's showing here that when you don't show justice, you don't show equality among your children, that you prefer, for one child something more than the other, then what happens is that you will not be dealt the same way according to this hadith. Because according to this hadith, if you want to have your children to show their beneficence, that they share their wealth with you, that they share their time with you, that they help you, that they show their affection with you, then he says that in terms of when you have if you have more than one children, if you're showing inequality with your children, then they're not going to show back to you. Because they will be inside having this example that that you also didn't show the same level of equality to me as you did with others, so I won't do with you. And also in another hadith, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that it is better for a man to attend to the good upbringing of his children than to bestow a measure of corn in charity. So it's much more important for taking care of the morals of your children than doing giving zakat or giving some donations. It's much more important. And in another hadith, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if a man has daughters and he makes arrangements to have them educated and takes pains with their upbringing, God will save him from the torment of hell. So this is very important, very important, where we live in still in a society where there is preferences given to boys and men over girls, and sometimes to the detriment of the education and the moral upbringing of those girls, that the focus is given on boys so much so that the girls are not looked upon in the same way that they do with their brothers. So this is very important, that we should take care of also both the daughters and boys, their both education. And another important thing is that it mentioned in hadith that no father can bestow on his child a gift more precious than good upbringing. So all the material things that we give to our children, expecting that they will reciprocate or they'll show love to us, according to this hadith, the real gift, the most precious gift, is that of the good upbringing. And that's what I was explaining to you, what the good upbringing is, about which our beloved Hazur was saying in the previous quotation, which I talked about. There's also a very big lesson in this as well, that we find in the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this hadith, which that the gift which is more precious for your child than is more precious than any gift, is the good upbringing. This was embodied in his character towards his family, and that is that although we are supposed to give inheritance and supposed to give wealth and take care of our children to the best of our abilities, but Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the fear or in the principle that I will teach my family that they should have a dignity, they should not beg, and they should not be over, they should not be having servants, and they should not be having so much worldly wealth and pomp. He wanted for his children the same as this hadith said, and I'll explain that even though he had many relatives that were still alive, he never gave any of his inheritance to any of his family. All of his inheritance went to the poor and needy. He expected, which is of that level of training they must have been at, and we know that the family of the Prophet, they all lived fine even after. We know that, but the example which he gave was that the money was not the importance of this life. The importance of life was the proper training that they got, and that they shouldn't be given undue amounts of wealth, which will just spoil them. And in one example, we find that with his daughter Fatima, he would love her so dearly that whenever she would come to him, he would stand up out of overflowing love and would seat her in his place. So this was the example of respect and love that he gave to his child. And such a beloved daughter came to her father with open heart to him, and this was the relationship that he had. And she used to talk to him about the different chores, the things that I have to do in the house, the grinding of grain, and the need for to bring water to the house. And she said that these things are very difficult, and she requested that she should be provided a servant to help her, with all these activities that she had. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded that no arrangements had yet been made for the residents of the mosque. That is, the other those other who were much more, in need of help at that time. Till they were taken care of, he could not pay attention to any other matter. This is mentioned in Abu Dawud, and in another, part in Hadith is mentioned that, and this is situation, and this situation that happened. It mentioned that Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied that the orphans of Badr have priority over you. You see how much even the poor people of society were looked at as that they also need help. And at last he gave his advice to his daughter: before going to sleep, you should recite 33 times Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, and then 33 times Alhamdulillah, and 34 times Allahu Akbar. Having a servant or slave cannot compare to this remembrance of Allah. He said, for you this remembrance of Allah shall be much better than a servant. So this was the example that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave to his children, that getting more and more acquisition of more wealth and more things for their disposal was not the purpose of gaining the love of his children and the respect of his children. And what was the way was how he treated them with love, how he took care of them. And we know in history that everyone in his family was well taken care of and respected and honored. That anyone ever thinking of living as a in the family of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is very greatly jealous. And that is why when Hazrat Zaid was his slave was given away, as I mentioned yesterday, was given a slave. That slave was, had so much love for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he did not want to leave his company. He did not want to leave his service. There is also another hadith that we know, everyone knows very well, that that hadith that says that paradise lies under the feet of the mother. This hadith has its obvious outward explanation, which there's also mentioned in another way, that when Sahaba were going to go to war for jihad, they were consulted to participate, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, do you have a mother? And one of the Sahaba said yes. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, be with her, because paradise is under her feet. So it is obvious that this meaning is that you can also get the paradise, just as one can get paradise becoming a martyr for the cause of fighting for upholding the rights of religion and the right of the repressed, that you can become a martyr and get paradise from that. But here was also another example that if you serve your mother, if she's in that state where she needs to be served, then you can also gain paradise by serving her. But the other meaning of this, important meaning of this as well, because the one meaning I gave is that for the youth, or for those who who have passed their youth and they have family, the parents, and then they see their parents in old age, they also have a responsibility to take care of them. But the other meaning which our beloved Hazur Aidul Talib bin Aziz has given, that he said that, explaining that this saying means that one that aside from serving your mother, the other meaning is that once a lady trains her children in the proper way, then she becomes a source of paradise for others. So the other meaning of this, and understanding of this hadith, is not just that being a mother on its own deserves that people can get paradise from you. The meaning also from this is that the parents or the mother in this case should be deserving of deserving of people gaining paradise through you, because she has trained her children in such a delightful and such a great way that they are the source of leading towards paradise. Now, we should sort of turn now to the next part of this, which is the responsibilities of the youth, or the responsibility of children towards their parents. And if we look at the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that this is the example we see in his youth, of what kind of when our parents might be asking us to do so many things. We live in a society where there are so many things. We go to school, our friends ask us to do this. There's pressure, all that kind of stuff. And and we may tell them this, we may tell them that, we may give them this ayat and that ayat, but the real example comes from the person who brought that teaching. And if we look at the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find that he never practiced idol worship. It was a very corrupt society. There was gambling there. There was lots of fights and feuds between the people of Quraysh and the people surrounding, the tribe surrounding. He never touched alcohol. He never drank. He never gambled. Gambling was a very common thing. He never took part in any of these type of useless sort of activities that the youth of his day, which seemed the same kind of activities that we were doing in today. And even there is an incident, if you look in the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that when he when he was young man, he used to tend with sheep. He was a herder of sheep, and that was his duty, or that was his work, and that's what he did. And he always wanted to see the marriage celebration, and he all the time wished that he could go and celebrate and see this the ceremony and things that had happened. And when he went once, when he had an opportunity, and he went there, because he was so tired from his work, he fell asleep during in that gathering. And those marriage gatherings were full of dancing and drinking and these types of things which we find today. And but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was such a person who was not inspired by these type of things. He himself, as a youth, was a quite different characteristic than you found the society around him. And I also mentioned that yesterday that in relationship to his family, that about his own family, he was an orphan. He lost his mother, he lost his father. He was in his grandfather's care, and then he ended up, after his grandfather died, with his uncle. And then, but all throughout this time, he never showed any disrespect or any anger or becoming, aggressive, or showing some kind of agitation that I feel that I'm uh, I'm living without any parents and this is unfair, and rebelling in any way. No, he was very decent, and he went through with such patience and decency. And even which was a custom, an Arab custom, that the children would be taken care of, be given milk by a lady who was called a wet nurse, and that wet nurse and the family of the wet nurse, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had great respect for that family. Later on in his life, he would remember her fondly, and he would also remember graciously her family as well. And this is the example that we find that in his youth and towards his own family, and how he he was his own person. He was his own distinct person. He wasn't someone who was just following the society and doing whatever society was telling. He was a very very unusual in this society that he was in, and I would like to now give some advice from our beloved Hazur to the youth and to those who have parents who are still children. Even though they might be older than youth or children, they still have responsibility towards their parents. And Hazur mentioned in the same sermon which I was reading from, I would like to read a couple excerpts from there. He said that Islam also stresses that that you, the children, also have responsibilities. When you reach adolescence, you have certain responsibilities towards your parents, which you have to fulfill. Once the Holy Prophet ﷺ said to a companion who wanted to go for jihad, that if your parents are alive, you should serve them. This is jihad for you. Thus, one can gauge the importance of serving one's parents for this. It's also narrated that Hazrat Sayyid al-Siyadi, he narrates that we were in the presence of the Holy Prophet ﷺ when a man from the Bani Salma answered and inquired, O Messenger of Allah, is there any virtue that I can perform after my parents? And he passed away. The Holy Prophet ﷺ stated that indeed you should pray for them and beg for their forgiveness. You should fulfill those promises they made with people. You should show kindness and compassion to all of their relations and friends. Then on another occasion, the Holy Prophet ﷺ stated, whosoever wished to live a long life and for their income to be blessed should show kindness and compassion to their parents and show respect to their blood relations. So here, my dear brothers and sisters, those who are youth, those who have family members, this is a beautiful guidance for us now, that we are living in a time where we are stressed because of our income. We are stressed because of our life. If our life, we will maybe have a shortened life because of the anxiety of this pandemic. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this hadith that the way if you want to make sure your life is long and that your income is blessed, then you should show compassion, you should show kindness to your parents, and you should respect the blood relations. So if any youth are there, they're they're worrying about how they're going to make ends meet, because maybe they're working now. They're worried about how they're going to survive and have a good and long life. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned here how you can do it. That you can do it by showing kindness and compassion towards your parents and to your relatives. And Hazur says that further on, he says that the children should not only make amends from their parents, rather when they reach adolescence, they have certain responsibilities and rights that they owe towards their parents. Especially after marriage, one should be more mindful of these responsibilities. If an individual uses wisdom and fulfills the rights of his wife as well as his parents, have a respectful attitude towards his mother and father-in-law, then there will never be any sort of dispute in the home, the like of which are sometimes seen. So here is, even we're at this time, we're seeing, and that's the reason why this starts is on this topic today, and it was yesterday, that we are everyone is living together in this pandemic. And one of the things which I wanted to explain to the youth and to those who are young, their responsibility that at this time is greater also, that because this situation is there, they should be trying to help out their parents, because perhaps your parents might be under stress at this time. They might be needing your moral support. They might be needing you to do something for them. Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, by the grace of Allah, all across the world and in Canada, has been helping out those people who need to get grocery and need to get different types of things, medical assistance, and so on and so forth. Khudam al-Ahmadiyya should first and foremost be doing, or the youth should be first and foremost doing, that is boys and girls, if they're at home, they should be taking care of their parents in this time, to see whether they need help with getting grocery, whether they need help with the grocery or any type of work at the home, so that they can also help in this time. That will be a great blessing, for them, and also for their home and peace in their home. Now, there are some other things which I wanted to discuss, but there is some questions that have come in, or one question that has come in, and that's an important question which is related to today's topic. And that question, I just read it out before, and that's something actually which I wanted to speak about, and or certain aspects of it. So the question was that how can children be discouraged from Western customs which are prevalent in schools and society, for example, birthday parties, Christmas, etc. So these birthday parties and the Christmas parties and other things like that. Yes, definitely, this is something which we as Ahmadis, we don't practice. There is first of all it's important to understand the society which we're living in, and the society which the children they are at this time facing, and you should explain to them first of all about the concept of the concept of, so they understand about why we don't practice birthday parties. That I'm not sure whether or not that has been done, but I'll just explain that first, that the birthday parties have never been celebrated by any faith. There is no faith which where the founders, when you go back to the original teachings of the founders of any faith, even in this case Christianity, where this birthday parties are being practiced, that the birth of Jesus was not a celebration. This is something which, and Jesus never taught that during his time, that there should be a celebration of my birthday. And then also there should be a celebration of everyone. If anyone deserved to be celebrated his birthday party, that should have been the prophets of Allah. They were the most righteous. Their lives are more, more precious than any life, and they should be honored. But we never find in religious teachings themselves that the founders said that you should celebrate my birthday. What in fact actually we should be doing is, and that we should be looking at their lives, how they live their lives, and how they how they went throughout their lives and behaved in their lives. And this is actually what they should be doing, but they're not doing, because this society is a society which is looking at ways in which to get more and more wealth through different type of practices. For instance, the more celebrations you find in the society, the more these businesses and society make money off of these things. Tremendous amounts of wealth are made from birthday parties, and celebrations also as well are becoming something of a great time where wealth is being spent to the in this society, also in Muslim societies like Pakistan, where there should be big gatherings and people should be celebrating on such a large scale. This is a waste of money. This is a waste of resources. And Khalifatul Masih Rabi Ramallah, he never said that we can't go to a birthday party, we can't go to celebrate with others, in the sense that because there had been an explanation in given out to Jamaat, that Hazur said that Jamaat said that we shouldn't go to birthday parties and we shouldn't have birthday parties. This is true, but the reasoning behind it is not the fact that going to the party anything is going to happen. The matter is that it's only to take care of the sentiments of that child, so that because if he goes to a birthday party, then that child is going to have much more problem with having to have his own birthday party. And when his birthday comes, then he has to invite everyone. So this is actually a guidance to Jamaat, so that people will stay away from this discomfort. Otherwise, in itself, attending a birthday party, there's no great sin. There's nothing in Islam that is saying to us, but it's just the guidelines of staying away from un-Islamic practices, which are in the area of wastefulness. And here, I would like to point out what Khalifatul Masih Rabi said. And this is where the training and education to the children should be there. That he said that what should be celebrated more is your death. Now, it seemed very shocking why he would say, but he was saying this because he said that it's more important that when we leave this life, we should be having a happiness when we leave. And that should be a time of happiness for us because we did good all of our life. We have something to prove. That should be something celebrated, even though he said, a poet had once said that when I came in this world, I was weeping and everyone was laughing. And he said, when I left this world, everyone was weeping and I was laughing. He meant that the person who left this world, he was happy because he fulfilled his rights in this world. So what I've been always saying that how we can, and I think that I will give some time on the subject of materialism, and this is something that came up also of interest in the families that we should discuss this as a tarbiyati topic. I will discuss the so stay tuned for my other dars that I will discuss in more depth about which I did intend to discuss here today about the Western society, its trends, and I will say a few things on after finishing this answer. Now, I'm taking some more time on this answer because I'm not getting any more questions coming in. So the other thing which I've been saying about celebrations like birthday parties and these things, we should be, as Ahmadis, we should be having occasions for our children, happy occasions for our children, like the Eid, like during Ramadan. For instance, you have so many occasions, and we're in an occasion right now to make your children happy, to counter that, because what they all they want to do is to just share in that happiness, to do something, have some gifts, have some some feel a part of some of the things that are happening in society. So we can, in our society, we can make them feel happy and make them have reward. It's a very good if we during the month of Ramadan, for instance, if we ask our children read the whole Quran, if they're at a certain stage, read the whole Quran or read as much as you think your child can do, which you can give them a reward at the end of Ramadan. That'll be a celebration. And what is a celebration, anyways? We have another celebration, Eid. Eid is a great celebration. It should be, our home should be decorated. We should have gifts for our children. But we should be doing that to educate them beforehand that, look, you offer your prayer, read the Holy Quran, do the fasting, do all of these things, and then we'll be happy with you and we'll have a celebration. We'll have a special celebration, and every family can do to their own how they want to do nice for at their home. And then we have this is Eid al-Fitr, we have Eid al-Adha, we have times in our in the occasion of our child's life, like for instance, if you have every year in all of the youth we have organization for lajna, Itfal, Khudam, Nasrat. They have competitions going on, and they involve in those competitions throughout the year, and they get certain rewards from the Jamaat. Why not get your child involved and make it a happy occasion when they win something, or they participate in something. There are so many things you can come up with to do that, and we should do that so that they feel that they too as well have something that they feel proud about. Though, no, we're celebrating, we're doing this, and we are having gifts as well, and we're sharing things. I didn't mention about about Christmas because I feel that Christmas is something which we have also bigger events, the 2 Eids in the year, that they are much more bigger events, and they should be celebrated in such a way that children, they get excited when they come to the when they're anticipating, oh, it's coming, and we're going to have this and we're going to do this. Take them out so that in such a way that they enjoy that celebration, because that's all these celebrations really they are doing with their own children through these birthday parties or through these celebrations. So there's no harm in when we do our own celebrations. Inshallah, we'll discuss the matter of the Western society and the customs in further detail. I will be ending now because the time is finished. Jazakumullah for the question. And inshallah, we'll continue these Tarbiyati Dars al Quran on the next weekend. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.